11th Standard English, Unit 1, Prose. The Portrait of a Lady continued. She smiled but never shooed them away. The sparrow, that's birds, they were sitting on floor. That the grandmother smiled but never shooed them away. It used to be the happiest half hour of the day for her. When I decided to go abroad for further studies, the author wants to study abroad for further studies. I was sure my grandmother would be upset. So grandmother, after hearing that information, she would be upset. I would be away for 5 years, and at her age one could never tell. But my grandmother, she was not even sentimental. She came to leave me at the railway station but didn't talk or show any emotion. She didn't show anything. Okay, so emotions. But I believed. Okay, after hear that, she will feel something, that emotion. Okay, show, but she didn't show anything. Her lips moved in prayer. Her mind was lost in prayer. Her fingers were busy telling the beads of her rosary. Silently, she kissed me forehead. When I left, cherished the most imprint as perhaps the last sign of physical contact between us. That is the last contact. That is a physical contact. Okay. Grandmother kissed his forehead. But that was not so. After 5 years, I came back home. After completing my higher education in abroad, I came back home and was met by her at the station. She didn't look a day older. She didn't look a day older. She still had no time for words. And while she clasped me in her arms, I could hear her reciting her prayers. Even that time also, she was reciting her prayers. Even on the first day of my arrival, her happiest moments were with her sparrows, whom she fed longer and with frivolous rebukes, scoldings. Rebukes means scolding. In the evening, a change came over her. In the evening, a change came over her. She didn't pray. The evening time, she did not pray. She collected the women of the neighborhood, got an old drum, and started to sing. She collected the women of the neighborhood. She called on the neighbor's house. The ladies got an old drum and started to sing. Then she started to sing. For several hours, she thumped the sagging skins of the dilapidated, which means damaged drum. The damaged drum, and sang of the homecoming of warriors. Okay, what did she sing a song? That about the warriors, homecoming of warriors. We had to pursue her to stop to avoid overstraining. That was the first time since I had known her that she didn't pray. The next morning she was taken ill. After that, the next morning, after she sang a song, the next morning she was taken ill. It was a mild fever, and the doctor told us that it would go. That is a normal fever, so it will be gone. Okay, don't feel anything. Just a doctor has advised to them. But my grandmother thought differently. But my grandmother didn't believe anything. Just she thought differently. What did thought? She told us that her end was near. My end was that's near. She told us. Grandmother told us that her end was near. She said that since only a few hours before the close of the last chapter of her life, that is the last chapter of her life, she had omitted to pray. She was not going to waste any more time talking to us. She doesn't like to waste the time. Only she wants to sing a song praying about the God. We protested, but she ignored our protest. We protested, but she didn't accept. She ignored. That's to rectify our protest. She lay peacefully in bed praying and telling her beads even before we would suspect. Her lips stopped moving and the rosary fell from her lifeless fingers. A peaceful pallor spread on her face, and we know that she was dead. Pallor, an unhealthy, pale appearance. Okay, just almost it was near to the end of life. We lifted her off the bed and, as is customary, laid her on the ground and covered her with a red shroud cloth used to wrap a dead person. Yes, after a few hours of mourning, we left her alone to make arrangement for her funeral. Okay, just in the end of the day, she was died. And after a few hours of mourning, we left her alone to make arrangements for her funeral. They had arrangement for funeral. In the evening, we went to her room with a crude stretcher to take her to be cremated. The sun was setting and had lit her room and veranda with a blaze of golden light. We stopped halfway in the courtyard, all over the veranda and in her room, right up to where she lay dead and stiff, wrapped in the red shroud. Thousands of sparrows sat scattered on the floor. After seeing the room, thousands of sparrows sat scattered on the floor. There was no chirping. The birds didn't make any sound, chirping, which means we felt sorry for the birds, and my mother bring some bread for them. Okay, grandmother doesn't give anything to you, so instead of my grandmother, my mother fetched some bread for them. She broke it into little crumbs. Little crumbs means a cake or biscuits. She broke it into little cake or biscuits the way my grandmother used to. How the grandmother was given the biscuits and cake, as the same like the author's mother wants to give to them, the birds used to, and threw it to them. The sparrows took no notice of the bread. After throwing it, the sparrows didn't consider anything. The sparrows took no notice of the bread. When we carried my grandmother's corpse off, they flew away quietly. When we take that grandmother body, okay, the birds flew away quietly. Next morning, the sweeper swept the bread crumbs into the dustbin. The next morning, the sweeper came and swept the remaining bread. Okay, because the birds didn't take anything from the floor, the biscuits, snacks, the crumbs into the dustbin. Okay, here the authors and the grandmothers, the real affection, the relatives. Okay, that is the main theme of this story here. The author's parents had gone to the city. Okay, after they settled the city, the author was left with his grandmother in the village. The grandmother accompanied the author to school. Later, they went to the city and joined with the parents. She spent her time feeding food to the sparrows there. The grandmother spent her time feeding food to the sparrows there. She didn't feel sentimental when the author went abroad for his higher education. She is ready to face her own death boldly. So she didn't believe to anyone. She is ready to face her own death boldly. She was strong-minded. The grandmother was a strong-minded. It's the main theme of this story. Okay, thank you.